I didn't realize anything was wrong until the second morning. At first, I thought I was just tired. The campsite looked different somehow. Not dramatically different, just off. The fire pit seemed farther from my tent than I remembered. My backpack wasn't leaning against the same side of the tree. Even my folding chair looked like it had been rotated slightly during the night. I stood there for a moment, staring. Then I laughed. Camping alone in northern Montana for 4 days was probably messing with my sense of direction. That explanation worked for about 12 hours. Because that night, it happened again. I woke up just before sunrise. The woods were silent. Not quiet. Silent. No birds, no insects. Nothing. I unzipped the tent and stepped outside. My stomach dropped immediately. The fire pit had definitely moved. Not much, maybe 3 feet, but I knew exactly where I built it. I'd spent half an hour clearing stones and digging around the roots nearby. Now it wasn't there anymore. The circle of rocks sat farther toward the tree line. I walked over to it. Every stone was arranged exactly the same. Same pattern, same burned logs, same ashes. It was my fire pit, just not where I'd built it. I spent the next hour trying to explain it. Maybe I was remembering wrong. Maybe I was disoriented after waking up. Maybe. But another thought kept returning. If the fire pit moved, what else moved? That was when I noticed the tent. The ground beneath it looked disturbed, like it had been dragged. The realization made me feel sick. I checked my phone. No signal. I checked my GPS device. The coordinates were slightly different from the previous evening, only by a few yards, but different. I stared at the screen, then checked again. Same result. I wish I had packed up right then, I really do. Instead, I convinced myself there had to be a technical explanation. Equipment errors, memory errors, anything. Because the alternative didn't make sense. Nothing could physically move an entire campsite without waking the person sleeping inside it. That afternoon, I hiked several miles to clear my head. When I returned, the campsite looked normal again. At least I thought it did. Until I noticed something tied around a branch near my tent. A strip of red fabric. I hadn't put it there. I knew that immediately. The cloth looked old, weathered, faded from years in the sun. There was a knot in it, a specific knot, the kind hunters use as trail markers. I looked around. Another strip hung farther away, then another, all surrounding my campsite, like a boundary, like someone had marked a circle around me. I suddenly felt watched. The feeling became so intense that I packed half my gear before stopping myself. I didn't want fear making decisions for me. That was my mistake. That night was the first time I heard footsteps. Around 2 a.m. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Leaves, slow, measured, circling the tent. I froze inside my sleeping bag. The footsteps continued, never approaching, never leaving, just moving around me, round and round, round and round. I grabbed my flashlight. The footsteps stopped instantly. For almost a minute, there was complete silence. Then something hit the side of the tent. Not hard, just enough to make the fabric twitch. I switched on the flashlight. Nothing. No shadow, no figure, no sound. I stayed awake until sunrise. The moment daylight appeared, I climbed out. The campsite had moved again. This time there was no doubt. The entire setup sat nearly 20 feet from where it had been before.
The marks in the dirt proved it. Long grooves cut through the forest floor. My tent, my cooler, my chair, everything dragged together, as if some enormous invisible hand had pulled the entire campsite during the night. I couldn't process what I was seeing. I started taking photos, videos, GPS readings, anything. Then I found the footprints. They surrounded the campsite, hundreds of them. Human footprints. Bare feet, different sizes, adults, children, some fresh, some old. All facing inward toward my tent. I followed one trail into the trees. After 50 yards, I found a clearing, and in the center stood another fire pit, then another, at least 20. All abandoned, all overgrown, all arranged in perfect circles. The exact same layout as mine. The exact same distance between the fire pit and sleeping area. The exact same pattern. My blood ran cold. Because they weren't copies of my campsite. My campsite was becoming a copy of theirs. I turned around and walked back as fast as I could. I didn't run. I didn't want to panic. But every instinct was screaming at me to leave. I packed everything before sunset, every piece of gear, every scrap of trash. I wasn't staying another night. As I loaded the last bag into my truck, I looked back toward the trees. Someone was standing there. At least, I thought it was someone. A figure, tall, motionless, half hidden behind a pine tree, too far away to identify. I blinked. It was gone. I drove for nearly an hour before finally stopping at a gas station. That's when I checked the photos. Most looked normal, except for one. A photo of my campsite taken that morning. The image showed my tent, the fire pit, the chair, everything. But there was something else. Someone was inside the tent, visible through the thin fabric. A silhouette sitting upright, facing directly toward the camera. The problem was simple. I took that picture while standing beside the tent. I was alone. No one else was there. At least, that's what I believed. A week later, I uploaded all the GPS logs to my computer. The data showed something I still can't explain. According to the recorded coordinates, my campsite had not moved 20 feet, or 50, or even 100. Over 3 nights, it had slowly shifted nearly half a mile through the forest, while I was sleeping inside it. And the path it followed ended at a location deep in the woods, a location marked on an old forestry map. One word: settlement. The settlement no longer exists. No roads lead to it. No buildings remain. But every year, people still camp near that area. And every now and then, a ranger receives a strange report. Not about creatures, not about voices, not about missing people. The reports are always the same. Campers wake up feeling disoriented. Their gear seems slightly out of place. Their fire pit isn't where they remember leaving it. And every time investigators check the GPS data, the campsite moved. The first time I saw them, they were almost half a mile away. Just another campfire, nothing unusual. I was spending 6 days alone in a national forest in Oregon. No phone service, no nearby roads, just miles of trees and hiking trails. Exactly what I wanted. The other campers were far enough away that I could barely see the glow from their fire through the trees after sunset. Honestly, I was relieved. Being completely alone in the wilderness sounds nice until you're actually there. Knowing someone else was nearby felt reassuring. That feeling didn't last. The next evening, I noticed their campfire again, only this time it looked closer. Not dramatically closer, maybe a few hundred yards. I remember staring at it for a while. The forest plays tricks on distance at night. Lights appear farther away, or closer. I figured I was imagining things. But then I noticed something strange. The fire wasn't moving. No flickering shadows. No people walking around it. Just a perfectly steady orange glow. Like someone had placed a lantern on the ground and left it there. I watched for almost 20 minutes. Nothing changed. Eventually, I went to sleep. The following morning, I decided to hike in that direction. Partly curiosity, partly because something about it bothered me. It took less than 10 minutes to reach the spot where I'd seen the fire. There was no campsite, no fire pit, no ashes, no footprints, nothing. Just untouched forest. I stood there confused, then laughed at myself. I'd obviously misjudged the location during the night. Problem solved, or so I thought. That evening, the light returned, much closer. Close enough now that I could see it clearly through gaps in the trees. I remember checking my watch. 9:14 p.m. The light remained perfectly still for nearly an hour. No voices, no movement, no signs of life. Just that orange glow. At around 10 p.m., it suddenly disappeared. Not gradually, instantly. Like someone switched it off. That bothered me enough that I barely slept. The next morning, I hiked toward the location again. This time, I found something. A fire pit. Fresh, recently used, still warm. My stomach tightened. Because it hadn't been there yesterday. I knew it hadn't. The ground around it was strange. No tent marks, no footprints, no trash, no food wrappers. Nothing. It looked as if someone had arrived, lit a fire, sat there for hours, and somehow left without touching the ground. I returned to my own campsite feeling uneasy. That afternoon I considered moving. Instead, I stayed. Big mistake. That night I saw the fire again. Closer, way closer. Maybe 200 yards away. Close enough that I should have been able to hear voices, but there weren't any. The woods remained completely silent. The glow sat between the trees like an eye watching me. I finally grabbed my flashlight and started walking toward it. The light vanished immediately. The second I stepped away from my campsite, gone. I swept my flashlight through the trees. Nothing. No people, no fire, no smoke. Just darkness. I returned to camp feeling embarrassed. Maybe another camper was messing with me. Maybe. But when I woke up the next morning, something had changed. There was a chair. Not my chair, a different chair. An old, folding camping chair sat 30 feet from my tent, facing directly toward it. I froze. The chair looked weathered, ancient. The fabric had faded almost white from sun exposure. I walked around it carefully. No footprints, no tracks, nothing. It simply appeared overnight. I packed it into my truck, then spent the entire day debating whether to leave. I should have. Instead, I convinced myself I was overreacting. That night, the fire returned, closer than ever, maybe 50 yards away. I could clearly see individual flames now. And for the first time, I saw someone sitting beside them. A silhouette, motionless, watching my campsite. I couldn't make out details, just a dark shape sitting beside the fire, not moving, not shifting position, just staring. Hours passed.
The figure never changed, never stood, never moved. Around midnight, I finally retreated into my tent. I barely slept. At sunrise, I rushed outside. The fire was gone. The figure was gone. But there was something else. Another chair, this one closer, maybe 20 feet from my tent, also facing directly toward it. I looked toward the first chair. It was gone. Only the new one remained. That's when fear finally replaced curiosity. I packed most of my equipment. My plan was simple. Leave after breakfast, drive home, forget everything. Then I heard something. A zipper. The sound came from somewhere nearby, a tent zipper, slowly opening. I turned toward the trees. Nothing. Then I heard another zipper, closer. Then another, and another, all around me. Dozens of them. The forest echoed with the sound of tents being opened. But there were no tents, no campsites, nothing. The sounds continued for nearly 30 seconds, then stopped. I left immediately. I didn't care about breakfast. I didn't care about remaining supplies. I just wanted to get out. As I loaded the truck, I happened to glance deeper into the woods, and my heart nearly stopped. There weren't 2 chairs. There were dozens, hidden among the trees, hundreds of feet in every direction. Old camping chairs, all facing my campsite. Most were partially swallowed by vegetation. Some looked decades old, some looked newer. But every single one pointed toward the spot where my tent had been. I got in the truck and drove, fast. I didn't stop until I reached a ranger station. When I described what happened, the ranger became very quiet. He asked exactly where I'd been camping. I showed him the location. His expression changed immediately. Then he asked a question I wasn't expecting. "Did you see the fire move closer each night?" My stomach dropped. I asked how he knew. The ranger sighed, then told me something I still think about. Over the years, several campers had reported the same thing. A distant campfire, then another. Closer, then closer, then closer. Always one fire, always one person, always watching. Every witness described the same progression. The fire approached night after night, until eventually it appeared inside the trees surrounding the victim's campsite. The ranger showed me an old incident report. 23 years earlier, a man disappeared in that exact area. Search teams eventually found his campsite. The tent remained. The equipment remained. Everything remained, except him. What investigators found instead were dozens of abandoned camping chairs hidden throughout the woods, all facing his tent. No explanation was ever found. I thought that was the end of the story. Until 6 months later. I was cleaning gear in my garage when I found something tucked inside my sleeping bag. A folded photograph. Old. Faded. The image showed a campsite in the woods. A man standing beside a tent. The photo looked decades old. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. Then I realized something. The campsite wasn't his. It was mine. My tent, my cooler, my truck, everything. The photograph had been taken during my trip. The problem was simple. No one else was there to take it. And near the edge of the image, barely visible among the trees, sat a single camping chair, facing directly toward me. The second campsite shouldn't have existed. That's the simplest way I can explain it. I was 3 days into a solo camping trip deep in the Adirondacks. No nearby roads, no established campground. Just me, a tent, and miles of forest. The kind of place where you can walk for hours without seeing another person. That morning, I left my campsite to explore a ridge about a mile away. The hike took longer than expected. Around noon, I started heading back. That's when I saw my tent. At least, I thought it was mine. Bright green, same model, same size, same position between 2 trees. For a moment, I assumed I had simply returned to camp. Then I noticed something impossible. My campsite was supposed to be uphill. This one sat in a completely different part of the forest. I stopped walking, staring, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The tent looked identical, not similar, identical. Same rainfly, same guy lines. Same small tear near the front zipper. My stomach tightened. I moved closer, slowly. The campsite came into focus, and every step made things worse. The folding chair was mine. The cooler was mine. The lantern was mine. Even the arrangement was exactly the same. Every object sat in the same position, as if someone had taken my entire campsite and copied it perfectly. I remember looking around, expecting some kind of prank. Maybe another camper owned the same equipment. Maybe. But no, there was no way. Not down to every tiny detail. Then I saw the backpack. My backpack. A scratch across the front pocket. A missing zipper pull. A faded patch from an old hiking trip. Everything matched. I felt cold despite the summer heat. Something was very wrong. I called out, "Hello?" No answer. I stepped closer. The campsite was empty. Nobody inside the tent. Nobody nearby. Just silence. I walked around it carefully. Every item looked real, used, weathered, not staged. Then I noticed something disturbing. The fire pit contained fresh ashes, still warm. My stomach tightened, because it hadn't been there recently. Very recently. I backed away immediately. Every instinct told me to leave. Instead, curiosity won. I opened the tent. Inside was a sleeping bag. My sleeping bag. Same brand, same color. Same small burn mark near the foot section. I actually felt dizzy. It was like looking into an alternate version of my own campsite. Then I found the notebook. A small black notebook sitting beside the sleeping bag. I recognized it instantly, because I owned one exactly like it. Except mine was back at my camp. Or at least, it should have been. My hands shook as I opened it. The first page was blank. The second page was blank. The third page wasn't. Written across the paper were 4 words. "You found it early." I stared at the sentence, trying to understand what it meant. Then I turned the page. My blood froze. The notebook contained descriptions of my trip. Everything. The drive to the forest, the trail I used, the weather, the location of my campsite. Even small details I had never told anyone. The entries ended with that morning. The final line read, "Today he found us." I dropped the notebook. For the first time, I genuinely considered running. Then I heard a zipper. The sound came from inside the tent I had just searched. I stumbled backward. The zipper slowly opened from the inside. An inch, then another, then another. I couldn't move. The opening widened, but nobody came out. Nothing emerged. The tent remained empty. At least, it appeared empty. I turned and ran. I didn't care anymore. I sprinted through the woods until I reached my actual campsite. The relief lasted about 2 seconds. Because something had changed. My campsite wasn't empty. Someone had been there. I knew immediately. The chair had moved. The cooler had been opened. My lantern sat on the opposite side of the fire pit. Small changes. Intentional changes. Like someone wanted me to notice. Then I found the notebook. My notebook. The one that should have been inside my backpack. It now sat directly in the center of camp, open, waiting. There was a new sentence inside. We saw you too. I packed immediately. No hesitation, no debate. I was leaving. While stuffing equipment into my truck, I kept looking toward the trees. Every shadow looked wrong. Every gap between branches felt occupied. The entire forest seemed to be watching. It took nearly an hour to load everything. By then, the sun was beginning to set. I just wanted to reach the highway before dark. Then I noticed smoke. Thin, gray smoke drifting upward through the trees. Not from my camp, from somewhere deeper in the forest. Curiosity almost got me killed. I walked toward it, just far enough to see the source. Another campsite. My campsite. Again, a third copy. This one wasn't empty. Someone sat beside the fire. A man, wearing my jacket, my hat, my backpack. He looked exactly like me. The figure sat motionless beside the flames, watching them. I couldn't see his face. The hood covered most of it. Then he slowly raised one hand and waved. I ran. I don't remember much after that. Just trees, branches, panic, the overwhelming need to get away. I reached the truck and drove until sunrise. I never returned. Months passed before I finally convinced myself it had been some elaborate prank. Maybe local campers. Maybe a hallucination caused by exhaustion. Maybe. Then an email arrived. No subject line, no sender name, just an attachment. A photograph. The image showed my campsite from above, taken at night. I was asleep inside the tent. The fire had burned down. The forest surrounded me on every side. At first, I noticed nothing unusual. Then I started counting. 1 tent, 2 tents, 3 tents, 4 tents, 5 tents. Hidden among the trees, each one identical to mine, each one positioned in a circle around my campsite. The farther I looked, the more I found. Dozens, maybe hundreds, stretching into the darkness. Every tent identical. Every campfire extinguished. Every entrance facing directly toward me. And standing beside each tent was someone who looked exactly like me. The email contained only one sentence. We are still camping here.